I want to speak quickly, just a few minutes, because I know that some of you have come to hang out. I want to speak from the book of 1 Samuel chapter 13 and verse 11 to 15. Last week I spoke about worry. This week, God wants me to continue to encourage you and speak about what I call the contagion of fear, the disease of fear, the infection of fear. And 1 Samuel chapter 13 and verse 11 to 15. Listen to me. He says, what have you actually, if possible, guys, I know this is going to be a bit funny. Can we go from verse 8? If you can start from verse 8, it might just help with the story. Good. God bless you, man. And you've gone to the Amplified. It's fine. It's fine. Now, Saul waited 7 days. Amplified is fine. It's fine. Now, Saul waited 7 days according to the appointed time which Samuel had set. But Samuel had not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattering away from Saul. Verse 9. Now, so Saul said, bring me the burnt offering and the peace offering, and he offered the burnt offering which he was forbidden to do. 10. As soon as he finished offering the burnt offering, as soon as he finished offering the burnt offering, Samuel finally came. Saul went out to meet him and to welcome him. But Samuel said, what have you done? Saul said, I want you to read this with me. Since I saw that the people were scattering away from me. Last, I'm going to stop here. I didn't say this in the first service. I'm going to say this in the second service. Let him go. Let her go. If they want to leave you, let them go. Have the grace to say goodbye. And that you did not come within the appointed time, and that the Philistines were assembling at Michmash. He says, verse 12, he says, therefore I said, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not asked the Lord's favor by making supplication to him. So I forced, see that word, forced myself to offer the burnt offering. Verse 13. Samuel said to Saul, you have acted foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you. For if you had obeyed the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. But now the kingdom shall not endure. The Lord has sought out for himself a man, David, after his own heart. And the Lord has appointed him as leader and ruler over his people, because you have not kept and obeyed the Lord's commandment, what the Lord commanded you. Verse 15, it says, then Samuel arose and went from Gilgal to Gibeah of Benjamin, and Saul assembled and counted the people who were still, underline that, with him, only about 600 fighting men. An English novelist called Rudyard Kipling says, of all the lies in the world, the fearsome lies are your fear. One of the greatest things, or one of the things that I begin to realize about fear, is that it only takes a hole this big for it to get inside. Fear is like the mouse in your house. It will find a tiny hole that you or I leave exposed in our lives and exploit it. And once that mouse comes in, it invites mommy mouse. Mommy mouse comes in and then gives birth to little ones around that keep scurrying around and doing a lot of devastation. It's the same thing with us. Once fear moves in and takes up residence, it now has what I call little fear babies. And pretty soon, fear is scurrying around in our lives. The disease of Saul was fear, so he had no freedom to dominate. Listen to me. He was free, but in his mind, he was bound by people. I know what it is as a pastor to have people saying they're leaving. And when they start saying they're leaving, you start doing diabolical things to keep them in church. Saul was free as a king, but the whole of Israel, and had the whole of Israel at his feet, but he had a bondage problem. He lacked dominion in his mind, and the same people he was supposed to rule ruled over him and killed his destiny. The same people. Freedom means to dominate. What did I say? Freedom means to do what? To dominate. You know, you can be free but not able to dominate. A position does not give you the ability to reign. Saul surrendered his entire life to the disease of fear. And the greatest weakness of all is the greatest fear of appearing weak. The greatest fear. So Saul was king, but was not king. Saul was in charge, but people were in charge of him. And most times, fear is a quiet cancer that has debilitating internal effects, but never shows itself externally. Do you know, for those who have dealt with cancer, those who have had cancer in their family, those who have gone through it, you understand that many times you don't even know that you have it until they tell you that you have it. There was a time I just went to do a medical check. My wife and I did a medical check, and they said we should give a specimen. I gave a specimen. From that specimen, I ended up on the operating table twice. Just from a specimen. I didn't know anything was wrong with me. My body didn't show me that anything was wrong with me, but just a specimen ended me on the operating table twice. Clear operation. And do you not realize that somebody can be living their life, for those who have been through it, very simple, very agile, very, very great. They walk into a doctor's surgery. Before you know anything, they just said they want to do a blood test. They do a blood test, then they say, no, we need to do further tests. And they do further tests, and they say, oh, I'm sorry, but we've detected some cancerous cell. Do you realize that it is the news that make people start to fall sick? Because before they heard the news, they were still okay. Is anyone hearing what I'm saying? You know, COVID, when COVID was around, it was the fear. The person, COVID is still around. The person you're sitting beside has COVID. If somebody coughs right now, before everyone is like, hey. Now everyone is like, do you want sweet? Do you want a drink? Because the fear of COVID has been removed. And what killed many people was the fear what they were telling us it could do, rather than the faith that could keep us standing. Once they introduced this, what you call that injection or something, the vaccine. Once they introduced the vaccine, they told us once you get the vaccine, it is not transferable. It's a lie. We got the vaccine 3 times, and you still got COVID. I have nothing against the vaccine because I'm online. But what I'm saying is that those who got it, those who didn't get it, and all that kind of stuff, we are still living with COVID, but we have stepped on the fear of it. And that's why when they have counseling for those who have cancer, they keep saying, keep your mind intact. Because it could be mind over body. Is anyone hearing what I'm saying? Because you can be a slave by reason of service than reason of status. So Saul in this story was a slave by reason of his service than by reason of being king. Now let me bring it down to your backside, to your backyard. Sorry. Second service is very tricky, you know. You know, you can be married and yet still be dominated by fear of being single. Hence, your behavior and your mannerism shows singleness. How do I know? Let me take women, for example. Don't crucify me. I'm just going to take women, for example. So, married women can have children, can be in a marriage, and yet still be plotting their exit from when they were single. Meaning that I'm married to you, but I need to put something aside, because if you decide not to love me anymore, I must sort out myself. So what we do is we get into the marriage and we put some money apart. We put some things apart that maybe by the possibility that this is not going to work. 20 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, the relationship breaks up, not because the guy is bad, but because in your mind there was always the fear that it will break up. That's why you didn't get financially involved with your husband, or also the husband didn't get financially involved with the wife, because the guy is saying, I don't want to work all this, do this work, acquire all this stuff, and then somebody comes to me and now says 50-50. So in your mind, you have already set in motion a fear. It's called catastrophizing. And catastrophizing, it means that a person is fixated on the worst possible outcome and treats it as likely even though it is not. So you get into a relationship, and while you're in that relationship, you're now saying to yourself, let me be very careful and protect my stuff, because if I don't protect my stuff and this relationship falls, I will be in serious trouble. I was at a wedding. I finished preaching. After I finished preaching, one mother called me apart and said to me, I have daughters, I have this, but I really want them. What you just said does not fit into some certain cultures. I said to her, be quiet, woman. I said, are you single? Are you married? No. I said, so that fear is what you're giving over to your children. Don't tell me to change my message. Because of what you see around doesn't mean that that is a reality. It's just like, seriously, how many black people do you see swim? Especially Africa. How many? Not a lot. You guys are smiling as if you do. You don't. How many? Why? Because our parents, from when we were going, would say, don't go anywhere near the water. My mom took me and my twin brother and my senior brother, took us to a place where my wife comes from, where she was born, you understand, in Nigeria, called Ibadan. There's a hotel there called Premier Hotel. It's a white, magnificent, fantastic hotel. It has a swimming pool. My mom took us to the swimming pool and yet told us not to swim. How? Was said, no, don't go close to the water. So what are we doing here? That I can't swim. So if you really get into the water and something happens, I can't save you. So don't swim. So I didn't know how to swim. It was so bad. I've shared this story before. It was so bad that when I went to holiday in Thailand, you know, I've shared this before, with a life jacket, I was drowning. Life jacket on, I lie not to you. And how could you be wearing a life jacket? And I was drowning. I was like, ah. Then I said, help, help. My wife is on the video. She will show you one day. I said, help, help. My son was saying, help, help. This white, wonderful man just came beside me. He says, you're wearing a life jacket. I'm like, hey, yeah, I know. He says, stand up. I said, no. He says, I'm standing up in the water. You are taller than I am. Stand up. Fear. So anywhere I go on holidays or something like that, and I get into the swimming pool, and I wear my goggles, some people think I'm showing off. I just don't like water to come into it. I just see some people just look at me, and they just move aside. Like, let's see what he's going to do. Because technically in their mind, they don't believe that I can swim. So I will show off. Like, since I have experienced that, I came back to learn how to swim so that I do not project that same fear on my son, who was making fun of me and was saying, help. And then I was trying to hold him while he was holding me, and somebody was holding the two of us. It's just about fear. And many of us are in a relationship but behaving single. We're preparing for tragedy. We're preparing for something to happen rather than currently focusing on what is in front of us. Meaning that, listen to me, you can have a job, because we're talking about having something but being dominated by it. You can have a job and yet live as if you're jobless. Somebody's like, what do you mean by that? You can have a job and never invest in a property because you say to yourself that I'm not sure if this job will last long. So when somebody says, buy a property, invest in this, buy your own stuff, don't live in this place, don't stay with rent. Oh, no, I'm just being careful because based on the economy, nobody's job is secure. 15 years down the line, you're still working and still have that same lingua. And what did it come? It came maybe from your dad, maybe from your mom. Maybe you've seen them do that before and their house was repossessed. You have actually acquired that fear. So you are living, working, but there's even no sign of enjoyment in your life because all you're doing is you're saving. While you say you're frugal, you're not frugal, you're fearful. So the job dominates you. Remember that the widow of Zarephath would have gained a meal, but would have lost a future. If she had the fear of not giving, fear of sickness, fear of generational occurrence, because it happened in my generation, it's going to happen in me. So you develop a predilection towards fear. Hence, your predisposition is so laid back that you become stagnant. It's contagious. It's a contagion of fear. It's a disease of fear. And fear is simply nothing more than false evidence appearing real. I'm going to say that again. Fear, F is false, E is evidence, A is appearing, R is real. So fear is what? False evidence appearing real. So I could stand up in the water, but fear told me that the water is deeper than my height, because it was what? False evidence appearing real. You could live a beautiful life with a great person, with a wonderful person, but you're not going to do that because fear produces what? False evidence that appears real. And you are the one that has subscribed to the Fear podcast. And can I say this to everyone? I'm not going to deal with the whole thing, but I'm going to say to somebody that your promotion in life depends on the battles that you fight. Your access to greatness depends on how you react to that fear. So today, I'm not going to teach you on how to deal with fear. You've got to come back next week with that. But the first thing I want to show you is what fear does in your life. I want to talk about the manifestation of fear, because when we checked into scripture, we saw that fear manifested in Saul, who was one of the tallest men in Israel, given the kingship without him being in the royal lineage, and yet his whole kingdom failed. His destiny failed because he was catastrophizing and saying to himself, people are leaving me. Fear has a multiplicity of manifestations. It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be relationship. And some of us, we have become a product of that fear. Job chapter 3 and verse 25, it made it very clear. Job says, for the things which I greatly fear comes upon me, and that which I am afraid has come upon me. So Job was catastrophizing. He was good. He had children. He had money. He was living in one of the richest places. But yet he was saying, let me do some sacrifices. Let these children do something that God will be angry and just wipe them off. And he kept doing that year in, year out, fearing the worst and not enjoying the best. And many of us, we are living like that, fearing the worst and not enjoying the best. And fear, I want to tell you, if you are afraid or if you have fear in your life, because it manifests itself in three ways, and it creates us to be a product of fear. I would love to say the product of fear. What does fear produce? Number one, fear makes us irrational. Fear makes us what? Fear causes us to become weak, to become irrational in our decisions that sell our future for the sake of today. It takes our happiness, takes our sleep, takes our life. Esau sold his birthright based on the fear of death. If you don't give me the food, I will die. It was false what? Evidence appearing real. Nobody dies in one day of hunger. But he sold his birthright to his brother because he feared death. And listen to me, when we are afraid, we begin to doubt. So listen to me. Many of us are afraid of relationships. Why? Because we've been in a relationship before that failed, or our friend was in a relationship that failed and their fear became your fear. So here comes a 6'3" man, and you're 5, 6, 5, 3, 5, 4. And the guy comes into your life and says, I like you. And nah, this is not going to work. I fear handsome dudes. Look at me, look at him. You make an irrational decision and you shut down that relationship because you looked at yourself and doubted yourself. Whereas God said you are fearfully and wonderfully made. He saw all the tall people, but God just led him to you. And your size does not matter. What matters is the voice of God that he heard. Well, you shut that down and you made an irrational decision because you saw the guy light in complexion and handsome. That's all. Like, he looks like Mary. He just shut it down. One guy, we were in a place and we were talking, and the guy was looking at me. So he said, how did you bag this woman? I said, because he did what you feared to do. And the guy, I said, that's exactly what happens. All these wonderful, beautiful women that are around, you just see this guy. You yourself will not match them together. But you know what? A guy who feels he's ugly, I like them. I'm ugly anyway. I've got no from anybody. So what is going to be there? I'll get to know again. Just goes to the guy. The girl is looking for somebody because her beauty, her looks, her size has eradicated a lot of mediocre men who are fearful. So once he steps in, she admires his tenacity and admires his boldness, and he bags. And the girl changes his life. And you, 6 foot, weakling. You've just got muscles that do not work in any form of fashion. That's just the thing. Here's the thing. You were in the same church. You didn't see. Because it's just what? False evidence appearing real. Oh, that girl won't go out with me. Why? Because she's driving a BMW. She's driving a Mercedes. So what? You are driving a Skoda. Promote yourself. Associate. By reason of association, you shall be blessed. I would have still be poor if I didn't marry my wife. She came from a well-to-do family. I came from a poor family. And I didn't want to marry down. The first time I saw her on bus 12. They told you to hang out. Some of you are not going to hang out. You've checked out. I hanged out. I saw her on bus 12. She was sitting at the back of the bus. I'm like, this looks like a Christian. Well, my senior brother has told me to shoot what? Whatever you say these days. There was that face was not there. So I just walked up to her and said, hi, how are you? Are you coming from church? I didn't know what church. Said, oh yeah. I said, oh okay. What church you go to? Said, oh, I go to Victory. I said, where? Victory. I just sat beside her. Victory is mine. Victory is mine. Victory today is mine. And she was dating somebody else. But the day I sat beside her, victory was mine. I am more. But many of us, we make irrational decisions because of fear. And our fear develops into phobia. Spiders. I want to big one today. But I just knew that some people will be up here on stage. This could have been a calamity. If I just drop a spider right now, I knew this place would scatter. But spider, just making, and spiders, insects. Some of us, we are so fearful that we will not drive on the highway. Just thinking about the feared object or situation makes you feel anxious. Fear of dating because of past experience that are not even your own experience. The experience is so nerve-wracking that you may go to great lengths to avoid it, inconveniencing yourself or even changing your lifestyle. There's a difference between normal fear and phobia. Some of you will see the spider in your kitchen and you will be hungry. You got up because you are hungry. And then you saw the spider. And the spider can spiritually sense that you are afraid of him. So you and the spider now have a staring contest. So I said, come. Is this your kitchen? The spider takes over your kitchen. The spider has authority over the mortgage you are paying. And so you will not go into that kitchen because of the spider. Hey, spider. And the spider is like, I've got 8 legs. You've got 2. Let's see which one is going to win. Spider. You will not go in that kitchen. And even when the spider runs, you still have that fear that the spider is somewhere in the kitchen. So you're hungry for 3 days. Because that's why you make what? An irrational decision. There's a difference between normal fear and phobia. Feeling anxious while you're flying through turbulence or taking off is normal fear. Do you understand? It happens. It happens. But not going to your best friend's island wedding because you have to fly becomes a phobia. You make an irrational decision. There was a guy that was playing for my team years ago. Fantastic guy, one of our best footballers. His name is Dennis. I'm not going to say the rest. You said it. Somebody said Becca. It's not me on this. The guy was one of the best footballers around. He cost us the Champions League. We would have been a Champions League holder because he will not fly anywhere. He had the fear of flight. So sometimes when he's forced to do that, he would take a train or take a car and he would drive. They would drive him almost 2 days to get to the venue. 2 days back. He will not fly. Dennis. Dennis. Turbulence. Maybe because you've been through it before. I will never fly again. And many people will not fly, even if it is your child's wedding. Because why? You've turned the normal fear into a phobia. You've made an irrational decision. I remember we went to Dubai one time ago, my wife and I, you understand? And in this theme park, you know these things that are really high, where you go high, you have to hold your hands together, and suddenly it just go ahead, film, and the ground opens, and you haven't been there before, and you see all of these. You haven't. When you try it out, some people say, "God forbid." Yeah, I know, I did that too. My wife went there. She did it. The first time she did it, she ended up at the health center. Why? They told you, hold your hands like this. And she loves to do all those high stuff. I don't know where she came from, but she just will always go up there. But they told her, hold. And you now hear 2, 3, 1, and it just opens. When it opened, I saw my wife go, Jesus. And her hand hit one of the things, and by the time she came down, she was like, my hand. The problem is that she put the phobia on me because I now said no. So when we went to Orlando, I saw it again. I said, I will conquer this mountain. All I did was this. Closed my eyes until I reached the end and water came into my nose. That I knew I was down. But many people have turned a normal fear into a phobia. It's good when you experience butterflies, when you're peering down the top of a skyscraper or climbing a tall ladder. But it becomes a phobia and irrational when you turn down a great job because it's on the 15th floor. Oh, I can't walk in there. I can't walk in any skyscraper. Why? Because did you see what happened at 9/11? 9/11, how many years ago, has now turned a great job into no job for you because you're making an irrational decision based on height. It's normal when you're nervous, when you see a pit bull or a Rottweiler, but it becomes irrational when you stay clear of parks because you know dogs will be there. It's okay when you feel queasy, when getting a shot, or they're taking a blood test from you. But it becomes irrational when you're avoiding necessary medical treatment because of the fear of a needle. Can you see how we make irrational decisions? And you know, our irrational decisions, because of fear, eventually turns into bad behavior. And some people are becoming controlling even in their relationship because of fear. They're having bad behavior, bad anger management because we don't know how to deal with an issue in a healthy way. We now turn to an unhealthy way of coping, and that chips away our intimacy with God. When you have fear, you make irrational decisions. And I want to ask you, bruv, listen to me. How many of my mandems are making irrational decisions because of the fear of what can happen in their relationship? We become controlling, become narcissistic. Why? Because we want to be in control because of the fear of losing control. Do you realize that many Many presidents or stuff that we've seen before rule a country out of fear. We make irrational decisions. So you get married to somebody who likes to take risk. I say, no, we can't buy that. No, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. Why? Your no is based on fear. You are not frugal. You're just fearful. And then we make irrational decisions. Because as we finish church, some people will pack their bags and they will disappear. You're single. You're lonely. And they said, hang out. You have checked out. I can't wait for the service. I don't want anybody. But you're the first to send me a message on Slido saying that the church is not, that I feel lonely. The Bible says, he who wants friends must show himself what? Friendly. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Some of you won't be married to your cup today. You hold that cup as if your whole life is on it. Because we are fearful of mingling with somebody else. What's the worst that can happen? They'll just like you. And why are you afraid? Because you don't like yourself. Number 2, fear makes us inflexible. I've got 5 minutes and I'll close. Fear makes us inflexible. So what is the first thing fear does? It makes us what? Irrational. Number 2, it makes us inflexible. Fear often makes us inflexible because it triggers our body to fight or to what? Flight. Thank you for those who got it. It makes us stubborn. It makes us resist change. We are afraid. Our focus is narrow and we tend to rely on the familiar routines and patterns that has worked for us in the past. And that's exactly what Saul did. He just went back to what he used to do, finding a way by himself. This can make us resistant to change and not open to a new idea or a different way of doing stuff. So Samuel said to him, the way you're going to win is when you wait for me to come and give a sacrifice. He went back to the way of, no, if it doesn't happen, let me quickly do it because I'm a warrior, I need to go and fight. And many of us, it's the same thing. We're not flexible. When we don't want to change, we become inflexible. The same hairstyle, male and female, so that nobody shoots me. The same hairstyle that we knew you had when you were in preschool is the same hairstyle you have 35 years later. Nothing has changed. In fact, we identify you from afar by your hairstyle. Oh, that's Lydie coming. Oh, how do you know? Her hairstyle. Oh, that's John coming. How do you know? His hairstyle. No, his clothes. There was a daughter of mine. One day she walked, she said, the next time you wear this black skirt, I will burn it. Ever since I've known you for now, 5 years, same black skirt. You're always in black. He said, has somebody died in your family? You won't, you will not change for anything. And so you get married or you get into a relationship and the girl is bored. Can't you wear anything with trainers? Everywhere you go, you wear a cap. Both. Everywhere you go, you wear a cap. You're even wearing a Nigerian outfit and you put a ridiculous cap on it. Are you going football? Where are you going? Because we fear what people will say. We're not flexible. We're resistant to change. And in Exodus chapter 14, verse 12, let me quickly, he says, didn't we tell you to leave us alone while we were still in Egypt? What they were saying to him is, don't rock the boat. Don't rock the boat. You decide you will leave church today and say, I'm going to my hairdressers. You sit down, cut my hair. I trust you. But while they're are you sure? By the time he finishes or she finishes, she's done a worse job. Why? Because you put that fear on them. And even though you left the place and everybody's saying, oh, you look beautiful. Oh, this is different. I didn't like it. Shut up. Move forward. You're in a relationship, you cannot enjoy it because you're thinking this may fail. God has given you, one, a good job, then he gave you a property, then he gave you a relationship, and you sit there and you're saying to yourself, let's see, this is too good to be true. I know something is going to come down the line. You have already destroyed what God was taking you on a wave. When we got this building, I was afraid of the people around. Why? Because a pastor came here and looked around while we were still building up. He says, you need to sell it immediately because these neighbors will give you hell. And I couldn't enjoy it. 2 years down the line, I couldn't. One day I just said to myself, I really don't care. I will enjoy it as long as it lasts, and if they complain, God will find another one for us. Decide to enjoy it. We don't not even enjoying our relationships. We're not enjoying. You are dating someone. Enjoy yourself in a godly way. Oh, yeah. I don't even know where else to go from that one. Boom! You're putting out a test for the girl. You're testing. So have you passed the test? Let me test her. Are you the devil? let me put her through the you open your mouth. Let me put her through the fire. If she succeeds, then she's mine. You come back. Let me put you through the furnace. Why? Because you're not flexible. That this one is not Talikwa. It's Mamikwa. Mamikwa has been through the fire and come up on the other end. And here you are, adding fire upon fire. You know, at the end of the day, those who put them in the fire actually died. Fear keeps people from growing. It keeps your business from growing. It keeps your church from growing. Fear keeps us from making positive and lasting changes to our life. So some are afraid to let go and let God, that they really don't know what else to do. Perhaps some of you are living in fear so long that you really do not know how to operate by faith. Everything in life is faith. We just don't know how to do it anymore. If I wasn't flexible with my wife, I would not be who I am today. Not even looking anywhere like I am today. Today. I had a poverty mentality. She bought me a watch, and that was the biggest fight we ever had. A watch. 700 pounds. But do you blame me? My take home was 700 pounds. You now bought me a watch of 700. She also supposed to do it bit by bit. She just get that. She traveled. She said, I just want to, Connie, thank you for supporting me. Thank you for giving me seed for her business, because we put seed toward it. And while she was coming, she just got a bargain. And she got it for me. The packaging alone cost trouble. Because my Casio watches, you know those Casio ones, the ones you put the battery inside, they didn't come in that such package. So when I saw it, I'm like, what is this? Said a watch. Does my wrist, my arm, does it value as much as the watch? Can you see how foolish, irrational decision? So 700. My wrist is more than 700. My hands is more than 700 pounds. But I diminished my hands to a 700 pounds watch. She was like, baby, boy, you know all your watches. And you know we've been to Lakeside so many times, and they keep putting batteries inside. 26 years down the line, I'm still wearing the watch. It's still at home. I had to change. Wanted to buy a car. I was believing God for a 10-year-old Honda. She was believing God for a Mercedes. I left her hands while we were believing God, because we prayed for 3 months. God didn't provide anything. 3 months. Isn't it, babe? 3 months prayer. No car. One day I just said, because we were brought up in Christian faith, Pastor Richard, that when we hold hands, things will happen. Things were not happening. She hanged out, I checked out. So one day I just said, babe, what are you believing God for? She said, the Mercedes-Benz. I just dropped the hand. That was a mic drop. Well, I'm believing God for a Honda. How did you go from a Honda all the way to a Mercedes-Benz? Why? Because I was not flexible. That's the life she believed. She grew up with that. She had enough faith for that. And I left. We didn't finish the morning prayer. Suffice, I was thinking, look at this. God, why? Why not somebody to my level? But you said you wanted to marry. Now you're up. You can't handle the altitude. That's why I need people on the stage here. I could not handle the altitude. After a while, I said, I'm an eagle, I will fly. Even if I can't fly, I believe I can fly. I just said, I'm going to piggyback on your faith. 3 months down the line, I got a job. 3 months down the line, they gave me car allowance. 3 months down the line, the car was in front of the house. It was so bad that it was in our lineage. Poverty was in our lineage. That I brought my twin brother to come and look at the car. He was parked in front of my house. I said, Kenny, which car is it? He walked past it. We walked down to the road. He says, where's the car? I said, you walk past it. He walked past. We came back again. It's in front of my house. He walked past the car and he went down the road. I said, where is it? I said, you walked past it. He was looking around. Of all the cars, he didn't point to that Mercedes. As we were walking back, it was late in the night. All our cars, you put a key inside, you open the door, and you have to yank the door. As he was going, I just pressed the bell. The lights just came out. Shoo! He looked at me and says, you bought a Benz? Like, are you sure? I said, nobody in our lineage had a bicycle that worked well. I'm breaking that fear. For cars like this, you don't need to service it except for once. 2 months down the line, guess what happened? He told me, Ty, follow me. I want to buy a car. Guess what car he bought? Then my dad came after 4 months. We gave him money to buy the car. He came down. He said to us after 2 weeks, he says, the money for the car, they just called him and said that the car has gone. I said, why? He says, well, we need to add some more money. I said, why? That he doesn't want to buy that car anymore. I said, what car do you want to buy? He says, you bought your twin brother Benz. Me too, before I die, I want a Benz. Guess what? He got a Benz. You know why? When you break the fear, everything else starts to work. Fear makes us what? Inflexible. Fear makes us what? Irrational. And fear makes us immobile. Let's close with that. Fear will mentally cripple you. It will cripple you to bad behavioral choices. When faced with a threat, our brain sometimes determines staying still or going for the safest option. And what did Paul do? Or Saul did? Saul was immobile. Mobile. They say, thank you, Danny. They said, go for this job. You looked at the job spec. There were 16 things in the job spec. You say, I can't do this job. The person who wrote that job spec doesn't even have that qualification. I'm telling you. I have interviewed people who had more qualification than I did. You become immobile. Just go for the job. What's the last thing? No. Go for it. Sit in the interview. You've gone another level. So the questions they will ask you, you've never had it before. But the next job you will go to, you're already used to those questions. They don't have that qualification. You're seeing a job. Oh, you need to be AI trained. Who is AI trained? All they're adding is, do you know how to write data? Do you know how to write English? It's just a question and answer. That's all you're inputting inside AI. That's all they're asking for. Nobody is trained yet on the thing. And you're running away from something that nobody is qualified. If you have a psychology degree, if you have a sociology degree, these are the people they're looking for. Oh, I have to be IT trained. No train. When I walked into Microsoft, I had this fear. I told my wife, I said, should I go for the job or not? They said, there are no stupid questions. That was a stupid one. She just looked at me and said, go. What's the worst? It was the fear that, the mighty Microsoft. Isn't people working there? And yet you say, wherever the sole of my feet shall tread, but get in there and tread. I got in there and tread, and God made a way. Many of us will never go for what we need to go for because fear makes us immobile. You've not got the job. You've not got the house. You've not got the property. Because every single time you want to do it, interest rate changes. It will continue to change. Oh, I'll wait till it goes down. Nothing is going down or up. You are stable. You have a covenant. You're immobile. You had a bad relationship, so you're stuck in one place. It keeps us from getting our promotion. It sometimes even produces what is called lack of enthusiasm. Life is just not exciting and purposeful anymore. It keeps us from interacting with people. All we want to do is to remain alone, be by ourselves. When we're afraid, the only thing we think about is ourselves. I don't think I can do this. I'm just focusing on me. It makes us short-sighted. It makes us feel that I can't be with people right now because of what I'm going through. Be with people because it is the same people that can take you up. God will never use you except through people. God can't. So all I did today was to expose the products of fear. Check where you're finding yourself short and start next week to come so that we can deal with how do I now deal with this? Because if you do not know the purpose of a thing, you will not know how to deal with it. Many of us are operating in fear. We're even married. We're even in a relationship. We're even at a job, and the job is dominating us. You know, you get to your job and you're looking around and people are talking about you. They need to talk about you. What is the word backbite? It means they must talk behind your back. And then you're leaving work every time. I'm stressed. They don't like me. They're not supposed to like you. God's supposed to like you. Those who are your enemies will become your friends. And therefore, you are coming. Come someday. Buy some croissant. Put it on the table. Guys, there are croissants here. There's tea and coffee. Eat with it. Let them feel it's poisoned. Be yourself. When they know there's no effect on you, you will keep making progress. Just imagine that David was so much concerned about Saul. He would have made an irrational decision out of fear and killed Saul. Make sure that fear does not make you irrational, does not make you inflexible, and does not make you immobile. Did you get something from it?
We'll just keep on praising and raising up. Oh yeah, you see people taking their place in your love. Oh yeah, as you keep your love. Everybody's good, let's roll. So come on if you're good to go. We don't care if you like it. We'll keep it moving till the night's up. Even if you wanna fight us, we'll shut it down and put the lights up.